Hello. Do you feel like I haven't done this in 2 weeks?
I know.
Like,
I literally, when I was getting set
hell.
up, I was like, do I even remember how to record a podcast?
I don't even remember.
I don't think I do.
My God. All right.
Bardown Beauties is back and bigger and better than ever. This is episode 45, and Charlie Coyle helps us kick off season 2, which starts right now.
Masks, hats, tees, and hoodies, Soda Stick is constantly bringing you new and original swag. Whether you want to rep the Minnesota Vikings with the Bud Grant crew neck, or let folks know you're from the state of hockey with the McGolden Light Pond Hockey Club gear, Soda Stick has you covered. Toss down that Bardown Beauties code at checkout for free shipping on all purchases at sodastick.com, official presenting sponsor of the Bardown Beauties podcast.
Hello, everybody. Bardown Beauties. We're back. Episode 45, presented by sodastick.com. Season 2, baby. Alexis, I kind of forgot how to record a podcast since we took 2 weeks off. But we're back. Let's go. Let's rock and roll.
It took me 4 takes to do the intro. It took you 2 takes to do your intro, but we made it to season 2 in one piece. It just goes to show what a 2-week hiatus can really do to you. You get out of the groove of it, and then all of a sudden you're back into it. I was getting my stuff set up this morning. I'm like, gosh, I hope I remember how to do this. It feels like it's been forever since we've done one. It's only been 2 weeks, but I feel like it's been so long.
Yeah, season 2, we're kicking this off. Some exciting changes, but nothing really too dramatically different. We are now, most of you hopefully are listening from the Talk North network. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, Talk North, partnering with us. We're very honored and excited to be a part of that network, expand our reach a little bit, bump elbows with the likes of Russo and Suhan and John Krasinski and many others, Cheryl Reeves, all those good people. So we're truly honored to be a part of this new network to kick off season 2. So that's the exciting change. Again, sodastick.com, still our presenting sponsor. We love them. We love all that they do. Toss down that Bardown Beauties code at checkout to continue to get that free shipping. And then Minnesota Hockey Fights Cancer. That's a partnership that we hadn't really announced. We had kind of picked it up during season 1, but season 2, we're going full steam ahead with them. So stay tuned to our social media channels for some exciting partnerships that we have in the works as we try to raise money to kick cancer's ass, because that's, the end game for Minnesota Hockey Fights Cancer. But that's about it. We're still going to talk hockey. We're still going to have guests. We're still going to be awesome people in general. Hopefully you guys think so. So let's.
And if you're watching the YouTube video rather than listening, you're probably where's Fred? That's because we fired him for season 2.
Yeah, we fired him. He's out. Just kidding.
Just kidding, Fred. we love you,
Fred.
He's working this
this so he's going to edit this, and he's going to be like, God, I hate you bitches.
I swear, every time he's gone, we just say something about him. He's never, I don't think, said anything in our group chat about us making fun of him when he's not here, but
yeah,
he's working, providing for the family as he has to do. So he could be here for season 2, the opener here, but he'll be here for all those other ones, just like he always is. So
yep, and he's still our man behind the scenes. We love him. We appreciate all that he does to get this ready for us to be on the Talk North network. So a lot of cool things happening, but again, we got still hockey to talk about, right? We got things moving, things are shaking. I want to start off with kind of non-hockey. Sid Hartman, as most of you know, had passed away at the age of 100. I aspire so much to still I kind of want to still be working at 100, and then I kind of don't. But RIP to him, obviously. Such a tremendous, I've seen him once or twice, maybe my entire career. And I was always so nervous to go and say hi, right? Because he's a legend. But it truly, truly is amazing that all that he accomplished in his career. I kind of want to get a recorder like he does. Just, carry that around, because that's so cool. But rest in peace to him. Did you ever meet Sid, Alexis?
I did not get a chance to meet him, which is really stinks as someone in the sports media industry and that world, and seeing everybody's tributes to him after the news came out was just amazing to see, because everything everyone had to say about him was so heartwarming and nice, and you could see how many lives he had touched, not just in sports media world, but just in general. So many people had so many nice things to say about him, and even as someone who had never got a chance to meet him or talk to him, I knew his impact here in Minnesota, and you could see so much more of that impact after he had passed, and everyone saying their nice things about him. So really tragic news, but it was nice to see everybody share their stories about what he, the way he touched their lives. And everyone had a unique story to share, strangely enough. Everyone's was a little bit different than the last. And it's going to be a weird world without him in it in the sports media world.
I mean, do you think we're still doing Bardown Beauties at the age of 100?
God, I hope not. I hope I'm like retired in a mansion. No offense, Bardown Beauties listeners. Love the podcast. Love it. But if I'm 100 and still working, that's tough. Hey, that just goes to show you love your job, right? I mean, if you're still working that far into your life, I mean, that is a kind of dedication and passion that not everyone has for their jobs. And it's amazing to see because, most people wouldn't be working at that point or to the level that he was working. So love Bardown Beauties, but if I'm still working when I'm 100,
we did something wrong. We didn't make enough money.
I'm struggling.
I mean, speaking of retirement, how about this for a segue? Woo, Doc Emmerich retired. Obviously another legend, a true national treasure, as I would call him, because nobody calls a hockey game better than Doc Emmerich.
No.
Nobody does color better than Doc. Nobody does it better than Doc. Another tremendous career. Retirement, obviously, good for him. I mean, amazing that he's able to say, you know what, let's take a break. But I know every time that he came into Minnesota, whenever NHL was calling a game, again, he was another one that I'm kind of starstruck, right? Holy crap, that's Doc Emmerich. Just an amazing voice, and NHL on NBC will be quite different without him.
That was literally my first thought. Well, I had two initial thoughts when the news broke. One, I was like, 2020 keeps getting worse. Like, now you're going to take Doc Emmerich away from the sports world. That's just rude. Second of all, I was like, I can't believe that, like, I watched this playoff season, not realizing this was the last time I was going to get to hear Doc Emmerich and see Doc Emmerich calling hockey games. Like, not that I never had it, like, didn't have enough appreciation for him, but I was like, I would have like multiplied that by 100 if I would have known these were the last moments I would have gotten.
I would have grabbed a selfie when I saw him in the press box. Like, I would have had no shame in my game. Like, let's go take a picture.
I was just so sad when that came out because he truly did bring such a fun energy to hockey games. His vocabulary is absolutely off the charts. Like, every broadcaster
109 verbs, I think, is what NHL on NBC had said when they tweeted about it.
Incredible.
Like, it's amazing.
I mean, you'd think he's holding a dictionary in front of him. I mean, that's how smart that guy is. And he made every game so much fun to watch. You could tell he truly loved his job. I mean, when hockey shut down when COVID all happened, and NBC released that video of Doc kind of narrating, like, can't wait until hockey's back. I literally watched it like 10 times and cried every single time. I was like, this man loves his job. I love hockey. I'm so sad right now. Like, and even his retirement, like, video was just so, like, heartfelt, and, it really pulled at your heartstrings. And so it's really sad to see and hear that he's not going to be a part of the broadcasting community any longer on NBC. And it's going to be weird not having his voice bringing you hockey games on that network. But I'm sure whoever comes in after him and who fills those shoes, hopefully they're a close second to him. I don't think anyone ever will be as good, but it's going to be a sad time next year for sure.
I'm excited to hear our guest Charlie Coyle. In case you guys missed it, Charlie Coyle joining us. I'm excited to hear any memories because I know so many players had an outpouring, even not just from being a player, but from listening, right? Because he's been on the air for that long. So I'm excited to hear what Charlie has to say. Transitioning now into wild news, obviously Winter Classic, the most Minnesota of things happened.
So Minnesota. You all knew it was going to happen.
There's no surprise though, right? We had Mitch Helgerson on of the Minnesota Wild. We asked him point blank and he, didn't give us an answer. I think he probably knew then. Obviously, because there's so much preparation that has to go into getting that ready, and they can't have done that. And the thing that makes the Winter Classic so special is the fans. And if you can't have fans, you can't half-ass it. There's no way around it. So, I think it's awful. It's a bummer. It's a big old bummer. But if you couldn't enjoy it, guys, would you have wanted it to happen anyway? Right? Like, if you weren't able to go. A big
old bummer. If that is not like the motto of the year, a big old bummer. That's how I felt about every single thing that's happened. That's a big old bummer. It's seriously just one thing after the other. But again, it's like, you knew that was going to happen. And to your point about the fans, it's like, you can do a sporting event with no fans. It is what it is. People can watch it on TV, but the Winter Classic happens once a year. You go to a year's long worth of preparation to get this ready. Think about all the weather you have to take into consideration to get everything set up. And you don't want to go to all that work and give people one of the most exciting moments of the year and not have fans be able to be there. I mean, It's just not worth it because that's the best part.
Yeah. Like, you went to the Stadium Series, right? With your dad?
I didn't go to the actual actual game. I went to the alumni game.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was at the North Stars Blackhawks alumni game, and it was seriously one of the best hockey experiences of my life. I loved the outdoor aspect of it, being there with my dad, him telling me all these stories about the North Stars. I mean, it seriously was one of the best parts. Think about last year when Corey Perry got ejected 10 minutes into the game. You're telling me if there's no fans there, who's supposed to boo him when he takes the 3-mile walk into the locker room? I don't want that. If there's no fans, don't even give it to me. I don't want to hear it.
Well, and I mean, Target Field would have been, it's just such a cool venue.
It would have
and
been beautiful.
So many people. I mean, TCF was great for the stadium series. I was able to cover the alumni game and the actual game, and it was so surreal. So, I mean, it like I said, big old bummer. But I'm sure the thing that is slightly concerning, and I don't know if I want to put this out there, but I will because I like to stir the pot. They haven't necessarily said Minnesota gets it in 2022, right? Like they didn't say like, we're going to take it this year, but you guys get it next year. Like the NHL hasn't said that. And so it's like, please give it to us, right? Like,
thank you for stirring the pot, because that was one of my initial concerns. I'm like, okay, so where's the reassurance that we're getting it next year? I don't see it. And even the Blues came out and said, they were like, we're in no contractual agreement to like play in this series. Like, even if it stays in Minnesota, it might not be the Blues. Like, mark this down. Put this timestamp down right now. I guarantee you
October 23rd, 9:47 a.m.
They're going to move it somewhere else. Minnesota is not getting it next year. I have a feeling in my heart. It's getting.
I mean, the thing is, they planned so far ahead. I mean, it was probably around this time that it was announced that Minnesota was getting it, right? Like, I mean, time is nothing anymore, but I feel like, I mean,
I think it was shortly before we recorded our first, like, because I remember
it was after, because I got sound bites from the players, because when they announced it, they had a big presser. So that's right. It was
episode 2 with Devin Dubnyk. I remember talking about it in the Trio Ring Closet throwback, talking about the Winter Classic. So I think it was like right around, maybe December when they announced it, that it was, they announced January. It right after the last Winter Classic. So yeah, it would have been like very early January they would have brought it out.
Yeah, because I think
you take all this planning and then you're just like, well, never mind, it's not happening now. So.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, fingers crossed that the NHL is kind and says, Minnesota will still give it to you, because I think they do recognize what a great spot this is. I mean, Minnesota there's a list a mile long of reasons why this is successful here. I mean, they've had big events outside of hockey, Super Bowl, naturally.
Yep.
So I mean, hopefully, but it'll be interesting. Stay tuned to that. Hockey Day Minnesota too, unfortunately, which was headed down to Mankato, also postponed. Again, it's another one of those things where it's so fan driven. Like, you can't execute that and still practice safety protocols that need to be put in place in order for things to move forward. So I'm excited, because I imagine FSN and the Wild and everybody has something really cool cooking, because there are still different things that you could do. If not, I would love to do an outdoor hockey game, guys. If you guys want to, we could do like little virtual things, whatever. I mean, it would be really fun to do that, because that's what, you romanticize hockey so much here, and Hockey Day Minnesota symbolizes what's great in the state. So, again, another unfortunate circumstance, another victim of COVID, if you will. But, Mankato still gets it in 2022. That one was announced. They will just move it to the next year. Mankato still gets to have their shining day.
Yeah. No offense, Mankato. I'm more concerned about keeping the Winter Classic here in Minnesota. Like, we can have Hockey Day anywhere, but like, if Winter Classic gets moved somewhere else, I am going to have a meltdown for sure.
Yeah, it could happen. So those are bummers. I mean, free agents. Do you want to talk free agents? I know we put out on Twitter an interesting call with Martin Hansel,
say something about
Kyle Gradland, and Eric Holla, who are still all available as free agents right now. So that was the whole key. Like, I'm not saying you guys I want them back. I was just saying there's still free agents available. Let's be interesting, right? I know Granlund and Holla, obviously big fans of Minnesota. Hansel, so no surprise, very few supporters. Tom Chorsky was probably my favorite, as he quote tweets it and he says, no comment. And you get it, because we said comment if you want Hansel. Hansel.
Listen, I have to just say, Jesse texted our group message for Bardown Beauties 8:00 in the morning, 9:00 in the morning that day. She's like, what do you guys think about putting this tweet out about UFAs and just for fun, who would we bring back if we
that
could
was a
pick
big
one?
disclaimer. This is just for fun.
Because they're all former Wild players. So it's who would you want back? And she lists off a couple names, and then she goes, how about Hansel? And I'm like, Jesse, what? And she's like, nah, just to stir the pot a little bit.
Watch the wild Twitter burn.
And I was like, all right, whatever, let's do it. And then someone, I don't know if you saw it, someone commented, they're like, whose idea was it to put Hansel on this list? And I wanted to tag you in it, but I was like, I feel like I can't throw Jesse under the bus like this. We all need to take responsibility.
No, I threw myself under it because somebody had tweeted at me why is Hansel even an option? I was like, because I want to see Minnesota Wild Twitter burn.
I
Like, I want you guys
laughed
to
so
go
hard.
throw me under. I'll own it like I do, because the reaction was exactly what I knew was going to happen, right? People were going to be like, no, like
someone literally was like, I still have trauma over the White and Hansel trade. I was like, me though.
Well, or you had said, I'm going to block anybody that says Hansel.
No, I said, I'm calling the police on anyone who wanted Hansel back. I'm done. No, and I said in our group chat, I was like, block and report anyone who wants Hansel. Like, you cannot be trusted.
No,
but I mean, it's an interesting question, because sometimes, players go off, not Hansel, and have good careers elsewhere. And then you're like, well, maybe we could bring them back. Like, I even said during our free agency day, I was like, bring back Granlund. Why not? I would actually be interested in maybe seeing him come back to this team. Like, I think he could be a piece that would work. Not really interested in Haula, for sure, like over my dead body with Hansel. But Granlund, I would be kind of interested in seeing. And I mean, you never know what they could do once they've been off somewhere else and then come back to their former team.
Right. Well, and it was like he struggled in Nashville, which I think surprised a lot of people, right? Like, I really thought he was going to pop off. Like, when that trade happened, right, I was like, Nashville's getting a hell of a player. And I mean, Granlund's still a really good player. I think he struggled to figure out their system. I think he struggled under Lavi. And then when they fired Lavi, I still think he didn't really get it. But I am surprised that he is still on the market. I don't think he would command a whole lot of money. I mean, he's not the priciest available guy out there. I think it's very interesting. Eric Haula has kind of bounced around, which makes you kind of question, like, well, what's going on there? Because he has skill. I mean, he's still speedy. He's only improved. He did really, really well in Vegas. I know that pained a lot of Wild fans to see him succeed there. He is down in Florida though, and it just wasn't a fit there. Yeah. But he's another one that I'm kind of surprised is still available, because I don't think he'd be terribly expensive. The appeal to Granlund too is he's a center, and we know that the Minnesota Wild need a center. Do you think that the Wild are done on the free agency market? I mean, I know it's been a while since Bill did anything, right? There hasn't been a whole lot.
It all happened so fast. I felt like I blacked out. I was like, what? There was like 8 things that happened in a span of like 24 hours. I was like, okay, wait a second. But yeah, as far as free agency goes, yes, I think they're done with free agency. I don't know about trades and whatnot, what Billy G's cooking up over there, but I feel like free agency, they're done. I kind of look at, who's still available, and I'm like, do we really need any of these players? Like, is there anyone super appealing to us? I mean, there's a lot of really great players on that list of free agency, but can we afford some of them? No, probably not. Do we have a need for others? No, probably not. So I don't really think there's anyone that sticks out where I'm like, oh, we could get him for a great deal. Let's get him on this team. So I don't, and I think there's been enough time now between, like, I feel like the players who've been on this free agency list have been on there for a little while, like they've been on there for days now. So it's like, if he was going to make a move, I feel like it would have already happened. It's not like the list has changed too much in the last week or so. There's obviously been a couple that have gone to teams and re-signed and whatnot, but I just feel like with how quickly he made all of those first moves, with how long this list has stayed at where it's at, I feel like he would have done something else by now if he wanted to. But I think there's maybe trades in the future, but free agency, I think they're done.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, again, as he has reiterated, as we've reiterated on the podcast, he's in no rush, right? Like, it's not, and he has said it's not a rebuild. I know Chicago reissued a statement admitting that they're completely rebuilding, because obviously, for those of you that aren't aware, Chicago obviously struggled. They had a decent run, a better run than the Wild in the playoffs there. But they kind of blew up some of their guys. They didn't obviously re-sign Crawford. They're getting rid of some of their vets, which are making Taves and Kane not very happy, because they don't want to have a rebuild, and that's understandable. For me, I'm like, that's selfish. You already won a cup, like, whatever. But
that's try 3. I'm like, you think I care? Go rebuild. Quit bothering me. I got other problems right now. Chicago, mad about rebuilding.
Like, the Wild aren't there, but again, and I will always go back to this, like, you need to change, right? And I think Bill has made those. He's chipping away at it and still trying to give some of those guys the benefit of the doubt. So we'll see what happens. But I would agree. I don't know that there's anybody on the free agent market that is super like, yep, let's get him on. This is great.
Like, some I'm like, oh, I kind of like that idea, but like, I don't know if it really makes sense. I mean, you can play around with roster changes and whatnot, until the end of time, but there's nothing on there that sticks out to me where I'm like, yeah, we need that immediately. So we'll see. I mean, there's still time for him to make moves, but I don't get a strong feeling that he's going to be doing any more there.
do you like Cam Talbot? I mean, it's been so long since we recorded. We never really addressed, I mean, we kind of did our little one-off videos, but like Cam Talbot, I'm still even 2-3 weeks later, I'm like, okay.
Here's what I'll say about that. So I was in the Target parking lot when they signed Cam Talbot.
And were you buying more hangers?
No, I was shopping for groceries and my mom was with me. And I'm walking. I told my mom, I was like, today is free agency day. And I was like, there's going to be a lot happening because my mom, I hosted my first get together at my apartment that night. So I was getting like groceries for my friends. Like my mom was helping me get everything ready because she's a wonderful mother. And I told her, I was like, if I seem like all like frenzied and like panicked today, I was like, it's because there's a million things happening in the hockey world. So I was like, I'm just going to have my phone on me and like keeping an eye on things just to let you know. And we're walking out of Target. We're in the parking lot, and I get the notification on my phone that they signed Cam Talbot. And I turned to my mom, and I was like, I knew the Wild were going to do something stupid today. And I, like, panicked, and I was like, I don't like this. I hate it. And I was texting my dad about it, and he's like, I actually really like it. Like, I think it could be good. And I was like, you're crazy. So at first, I was very, like, did not like it, and I was totally against it. Now that I've had some time to, like, calm down and, like, think about it a little bit more, I'm like, I don't think it's the worst thing they've ever done. I'm still not like in love with it, but I think there's a possibility that he could succeed here. And knowing that there's at least that possibility, you look at his stats, he's had some really good seasons. So it's not like he's like the worst goaltender on the face of the planet.
I mean, it was such a deep market, right? Like that's what makes it so interesting. Like, okay.
But again, I think there was a lot of goalies on that list that were obviously tremendous options, but the Wild could not afford them. So then you kind of have to take a few of those off that list where, you know, it's like, well, you know, like Holtby. It's like, that was probably one of the best ones on the list. Can the Wild afford him? Absolutely not. So I think that you have to, you know, look at kind of that second tier of goalies where it's like, you know, they're still very skilled, but you can probably get them for a cheaper price. Might not be the best option, but they're somewhere in the middle. And I think that's where Cam Talbot fell. And when I was looking at the goalie options on free agency day, I did think about him for a second. I'm like, maybe he'd be a good fit. And I was kind of looking at his stats. I'm like, I don't know. And like looking at
You're like the only
like,
one.
I don't know.
I never crossed my mind. I was like, oh, I forgot about him. Is he an Edmonton?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I don't know. And then like I said, when they signed him, I was like not thrilled about it. Now I'm kind of more lukewarm on it. I'm not super excited, but I'm not as mad as I was on day one. So,
I mean, I guess I wasn't mad. I was obviously a little surprised. Just to me, he reminds me a lot of Devin Dubnyk, frankly. And it was like,
thank you.
Okay. Like that's the biggest thing for me. That's kind of my biggest hang up. Like you said, lukewarm is probably a good way to describe how I feel about it. Like I'm not bitter on it by any means. And I'm curious, like maybe he did pretty well with Calgary. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the resurgence. And when he had his media availability with us, he's very excited. So, I mean, he's going to come in hungry. He's going to come in hot. And I've said it before. I love Al, but he's not a starting goaltender in my mind. He never has been. It's just not. That's not where I see him. And Cam Talbot is a starter. I mean, he's had this career as a starter, and I know he's excited to take the net back. And Bill Guerin said he's our starter. You know, there's no question about that. So unfortunately, Al takes a backseat again. And is it kind of a gap? Like, I mean, maybe it is just to get Capo completely ready and make sure that's it. So I find it, again, and at the price too. I mean, he wasn't exactly cheap.
No, it's
either.
Not cheap. Yeah,
I mean, for 3 years, it's not cheap.
And nothing against Doobie saying that he's like Doobie. It's just that Bill Guerin made it clear he wanted a change. So you're getting rid of the netminder who you felt was no longer a good fit with this team, regardless of how you look at his skill at this point in his career. And then you bring someone in who is very similar to him in a lot of ways. Yeah. And it's, you know, similar. It's just, to me, I'm really glad you brought that up because that was another thing I thought. I'm like, I feel like you didn't really change all that much. But no. I mean, it is what it is. And you signed him and you could call him a stopgap if you want. I think I've seen a lot of people use that word and I don't really have anything against, you know, thinking that way. I think that is a strong possibility. That's what they're doing.
I mean, it needs to happen, right? Because Kakkonen deserves a chance, but is he there? We don't know because we didn't get the chance to see him. Had the regular season finished out as it did, probably would have gotten more glimpses of him. He probably would have had a chance to come up and give it a shot. And you weren't afforded that opportunity. So it's like he needs to develop.
Well, think about like a guy like Hudobin. Like, how is that any different than Hudobin? You know, moving from one team to the Wild, not really having great opportunity with the Wild, not playing that well, and then going and being the star of the show in the playoffs for Dallas. I mean, it happens with players like we talked about earlier, and it happens with goalies as well, where, you know, especially with goalies, because they don't always get the opportunities on certain teams like the rest of the lineup does. Sometimes you just get stuck in that backup role, even if you have the talent or the experience or whatever it may be. So I hope he does well. Obviously, I want him to succeed because I want him to help the Wild get victories on the season and help them, make a playoff run and whatever it may be. But I'm a little on the fence still about it, but I hope he does well, and I hope that he proves me wrong. So.
Yeah, I'm excited. Again, we're excited for the season to start. We're excited for our season 2 here as we kick off. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Mr. Charlie Coyle joins us as our guest. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you want to continue to support the Beauts? Well, make sure you check out our official Bardown Beauties Teespring store. It's stocked full of mugs, fanny packs, baby Beauts merch, and everything else you can imagine. Every purchase goes to support the pod and the Beauts, and we make sure to toss sales out there from time to time. I know one just ended, but there's going to be plenty more in the future to support you and your wallet, so make sure you go check that out and get yourself some merch.
Joining us now, we're very excited to have this guest to help us kick off season 2. Weymouth's own Minnesota Wild sweetheart, Charlie Coyle. Charlie, how are ya?
I'm doing well, and it's good to see you guys again, so thanks for having me on.
We miss you. Do you miss us?
Yeah, I really do, to be honest. I really do. I loved it out there. The people, hockey, just living out there, I really do. But it's good to be home, but I always think back to my time there. So I do miss you guys.
I mean, you might miss us a little less if I told you it's actually snowing out right now.
For like the third time this week, by the way.
It won't stop. Like, it's incredibly obnoxious.
I know. I've been keeping tabs. I still live in Minnesota. I'm like one of my weather things. So every time I'll look and I'm like, oh my gosh, again. And we're like 60 degrees, maybe touching 70 still. So
I'm muting you. Like, I'm going to hit mute now. Like, I don't want to hear that. That's ridiculous. But, let's take it back since it's been so long. How was bubble life for you? And tell us a little bit about the run with the Bees at the time.
It was different. Kind of just went into it like expecting the worst because everything was going to be thrown your way. Everything was going to be different and uncomfortable. So I just went in thinking, we go to the rink, come back to our rooms, and we'll be able to leave till like the next day. But I think we had a great hotel. We could actually venture outside. They had like an outdoor stadium right down the street, which was still in the bubble. We could go down there and throw the football around, get some exercise if we want. They had tennis courts in the hotel and just things to do, golf simulator. So we had a bunch of stuff we could do, and it wasn't like you were trapped in your room the whole time. So that part was decent. You still kind of felt like a prisoner in there, but everyone's in the same boat. It just wasn't the same without fans. Hockey needs fans, and it just the atmosphere and everything about playing. It just wasn't the same. It didn't seem meaningful, but of course it was. Everyone's in the same boat, and we all wanted to win a Stanley Cup. And it stinks to be out, but we need the fans back. We really do.
Yeah. So how did that affect things not having fans, especially during the playoffs? That's obviously a huge part of things and of the atmosphere. Did you notice it, or was it more so off the ice, or was it on the ice that you had those thoughts?
Yeah. You try to limit the thoughts a little bit because you want to focus on, what you're doing. But just going from, the year before we had a deep run and, especially playing in Boston during that whole ordeal, that was unbelievable. And just coming out and the crowd on their feet, it like chills every time you score a goal or make a big hit or like a big block shot, or whatever it is. It's like adrenaline rush, and it helps you. And so there was no really home ice advantage or anything like that. But and there's a couple of times, like looking back, where you scored a big goal. Like, the game we got knocked out, we tied it late to put into overtime, and it just, I think David scored, and he looked at the crowd, like did something, but there's no crowd in there. And it was a big goal, but it wasn't the same feel, which is, but you can't make excuses. Everyone's in the same boat there, but it's just so much better with people banging on the glass and bringing the energy and the loudness, and I want that back.
Kind of on that note, not to put you in a weird spot at all with this question, but would you prefer the NHL to start even without fans, or would you kind of have the preference to only start if fans are allowed to come back and engage with you guys?
Yeah, it is. There's so much that goes into it. If you're a guy who has been kind of had a lingering injury, maybe more time off is good for you. Unless you've been, some guys we've been in the gym with, they've been going for 6-7 months now, just working out, guys who were out of the playoffs already. and they're probably itching to just get going.
Yeah.
But a perfect world, start up, that target date, January, and have fans going. Who knows what it's going to be like, though. I hope it gets to that point, but I guess time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's been talked about a lot, obviously, you going back home and kind of having that nostalgia, that family all around. But what has that been like? Has it been challenging at all to have mom and dad and sisters and grandma and grandpa around you kind of 24/7 while you're playing?
It's really great. I wouldn't change it for anything. I mean, as I said, I really miss Minnesota, and I loved it there. But just think about moving away and then coming home and playing for your hometown team, and just little things of seeing your family on Sunday day off. So I can go down to my family's house, my parents, have a home cooked meal, and just see them more. I didn't see them a lot during the year. That's 9 months or whatever it is, 10 months that you're only seeing your family every now and then. So to be home around them is really great. I mean, ticket requests were bumping a little bit at the start. That kind of smoothed over, but just seeing them, I was home for Thanksgiving last year for the first time in however many years.
Yeah.
So that is really nice, and get to see my grandmother, and it makes it that much more special. So I feel really lucky.
Well, you've said on this podcast a couple times already, I think it's public knowledge that you really loved your time in Minnesota. I know the fans loved having you here, and we as media also loved having you here. Getting traded is always a tough situation no matter how it goes down, but what was it like getting traded, but going to your hometown team? That's got to be some excitement there, right?
Yeah, it was very bittersweet. I remember getting the call, and they couldn't tell me where I was going right then and there, so kind of panicking. Refreshing Twitter, I get the NHL Network on.
Was there a team that you didn't want to go to? Were you like, oh God, please don't?
Spill
you
the
say,
beans.
I mean, do it.
We won't tell anyone. we won't tell anyone.
You guys keep this secret? No, there wasn't. Whatever happens, I'll be ready for it and go make the best of the situation. But
good on you.
I was hoping it was going to be at least a playoff contender, a really good team.
Yeah.
It put me in a decent situation. But Boston always comes first on your mind. What if? And I just kept asking my friends if they've heard anything. My friends don't know anything.
You didn't text Russo? Were you like, hey, Russo, what's up? Where am I going?
I should have. I didn't know what to do. And finally we just got word it's Boston. I was so excited. I didn't want to believe it, because I was like, what if I believe it and then it's not true? I want to get my hopes up. And then we found out. It was really cool. And yeah, just you always dream of playing for your hometown team. But I think going back, back to your previous question, kind of when family and being hometown can be too much, I think it was a perfect situation for me where I was able to come out to Minnesota when I was 20, 21 and mature and grow, and then coming back to your hometown and facing those challenges and stuff that can come your way from growing up there and having those distractions. I can handle it better, I think.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been as bad as it could have been, I guess, if I was younger trying to take on those challenges.
It's really interesting you said that, because actually in a conversation that we had with GM Bill Guerin when he was bringing Nick Bukestad back home to Minnesota over the offseason here, he had mentioned when he went back and played for the Bruins too, he's a Boston guy, that he had to remind his family that I'm here to work. I'm here to do a job. I mean, sure, hockey is fun and all, but it's still a job. Have you had to have any of those conversations with family and friends?
Yeah, and I think my family's really good about that too. I think everyone was pretty excited, and I'll get in, and then it's hard to get, okay, now he's going to play hockey now. He's going to do his job. So I've had some great support and family who get it, and, the tickets at first were, maybe a little overwhelming, but then like quickly just kind of subsided. And then it's not like your family and cousins and close friends who are asking for tickets. It's like outside people who went to school with in fourth grade, or have 20 million tickets, and I'm like, I have 2 tickets, and I got a million cousins and family, and so it wasn't too bad, but yeah.
Not only did you get to go play with your hometown team, but you've thrived there. You're playing with a lot of big guns out there. What's it been like to have such a successful time with Boston? And go ahead, you don't have to be humble. You can toot your own horn.
Everyone in Minnesota already knows it's okay. We're okay with it.
There's a lot that plays into it, and sometimes people are put in different situations and more consistent situations, and that helps them. But I've been around. I mean, the teammates are great, and the team is awesome, and then they just kind of put me in, a spot and said, this is where we want you to play, and so I can just go out and play it. I know where I'm going every night, and every now and then I'll have different line mates, but kind of used to that. But like playoffs last year, we had pretty solidified lines, and I was playing with two great players, and that really helped me. And it was fun. It was fun right off the bat, and they just kind of welcomed me right in. And the other thing I meant to mention was two other guys in the team are local as well, so I kind of picked their brain about all that stuff and how to fit in, and what they went through, and just being comfortable playing at home without those distractions. So that really helped.
Not to keep harping on the whole being back home and the romanticism of that, but I mean, it's got to be pretty cool to be able to give back to your community and to a community that you grew up in. I know the Boston Bruins do such a really great job with their community outreach. Yeah,
they really do. And Minnesota was great as well. Yeah. I love being out there and taking part in different things. And here it means a lot. I can do, some different stuff in my hometown where I grew up, and, have my family around. There's like, the food pantry in my town where my grandmother, my aunt works, do stuff with them, or it just means so much to be able to, work with family doing that. And it's really cool to think about. But the Bruins, like you said, do a great job of setting us up, putting us in those situations where we're able to help out as much as we can, and you feel really lucky to be in that position to do so.
And did I read that you were a little leaguer in Weymouth, a little league superstar, if you will?
I wouldn't say superstar. No. I played. I tried playing, but I was not a superstar.
Oh man,
it didn't last long. Yeah.
At least you're honest. That's something we couldn't. Yeah, we couldn't fact check it. You could have been like, yeah, I was hitting dingers every day.
No, I didn't hit. Honest fact, I never hit a home run out of the park when I played baseball. Not once. Just singles and or struck out.
Hey, those are important too. You got to get guys on base, right?
It's important. Need a guy like that on the team, and that was me.
So we got to ask Charlie. Early on in our podcast, I think it was like episode 4 or 5, we had Carly Zucker on, and she told us a story about how you did a cameo for Jason Zucker as a joke. And for everyone that doesn't know this, you and Jason are very close. What was that like?
That was fun. It was. I don't even know. I'm trying to think back to how it went. I don't even know if she texted me about it. She could have, but I don't know if she did. I think, you go on the Cameo app and you can just book it. So like I'll go on them and you might have a request or two and you don't know who it is. And I read it's like, hey, my husband Jason is hurt and all this. It's like booked by Carly. I'm like, are you kidding? Am I? So I'm like, Carly, what? Are you kidding me right now? You're not paying money to. She's like, this is going to be the best money I've ever spent. I'm like, okay. So I did a whole, I think you guys probably saw the video, but it was, yeah. I probably took about 20 different takes. I just kept laughing. And I'm like, this is just, it was just so funny to do. And I think you got some good feedback. I think you got a chuckle out of it.
That's what Carly was saying. It was like $100 or something, but it was worth every penny, honestly, is what she told us.
I know. I'm like, can I Venmo you right now? Like, she's like, no, that was priceless. I would pay anything for that.
And she told us, weren't you like, Jason, buddy, hang in there. You're going to get through this. I mean, it sounds absolutely epic.
I'm trying to put in my head. So I was like talking to like a 12-year-old hockey player who just got hurt. So I kept using like buddy and pal. And like, I kept laughing. It would have been funny to see my takes, how many times I do that.
It's just brilliant. So is the cameo thing weird at all? Have you ever really gotten some extremely off the wall, incredibly unhinged requests and can you even say no to things?
Yeah, you can say no. You feel bad. It's usually younger kids, usually towards younger kids, but there's some older people too, or like, a dad's birthday or, who's been a lifelong Bruins fan or, it's really cool to do. And you get a lot of great feedback with it. And the best is when I do it and then people will either tweet back and they'll record the reaction of their little kid getting it. And it's really cool. And so I think it's done a lot of good. And, because sometimes you get, before I had Cameo, you get requests on Insta DMs or this. Hey, can you send a video for this? Can you send a video asking my girlfriend to go to prom with me? Can you do this? There's so many questions. You can't do everything. And you're like, how do I do it for one person, say no to everyone else? So this is just a platform to be able to do it. And I think you make a lot of people's day with it. And it's really cool and rewarding. And but I've had a lot of fun with it. And then you have those come by like Jason and Charlie.
But did you get a heartfelt reaction from Jason? That's what we all want to know. What was his reaction?
Yeah, you can call it that, I guess. But at times you get some weird requests like, can you say this? And it's like, well, I
probably not.
Yeah. So you work around it. But
you've never had to like break up with somebody for anybody else? Like I saw one where Mark McGrath had to like fire somebody.
I saw that one.
Did you see that? It's so hilarious.
I almost got off a camera right then there because I'm like, I don't think I can do that. That's just, it's one of those things. It's like, how do you do that? But nothing too crazy like that has come up, but maybe soon.
That's so funny. Yeah, we're going to put the request in. Alexis will say something and make it really awkward.
Something off the wall. You just wait on it.
I think that's what Minnesota fans truly loved about you is you're just this genuine, really sweet guy. I mean, everybody goes back to the video of you and that kid. What was that moment like for you? I mean, did you even realize that he had this reaction to you just kind of giving a little wave at all?
That was Henry. It's funny because I've seen him when I was still in Minnesota. Actually, it might have been with the Bruins. We played out there, and I was going through the tunnel, and I see this kid. He's like, "Hey." And I was like a deep voice. I looked up and I was like, oh my, it was Henry. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You grew up.
Yeah. I'm like, how'd you grow up? And you just think back to the time. I think he's still that little kid who was doing this one and just, but no, I don't know, warm ups and you see other guys do it too, little things, throw a puck over and you can hear, I'm usually standing there in that corner and people are banging, and you can't just turn around and start looking at everyone. But I could kind of see the corner of my eye. It looked like he'd be a kid. So I just kind of looked and gave him a wave and that was it, like not thinking anything of it. And then I remember my mom, like, I think I called my mom after the game and just talked to her and she was like, oh, that was really cool. I was like, how'd you see that? And like, oh, they played it on the thing. And then I saw it on social media and it just going, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And that's the first time I saw the reaction. And it was cool to see. You don't realize how big of an impact you can make for it. That was a second and a half of waiting to him. And now we're friends. I got to meet them and have fun, and it makes other people feel good. And that goes around the league a lot. So many guys do that. But you think back to when you were a kid, and I had a cousin that played in the NHL. So every time we got to go to a game or we got to see him after, it was the best ever. And you get to see other players, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. So I just try to keep that in my mind, what it was like when I was younger, and a little thing could go such a long way, and you remember it for forever. And sometimes you do that stuff and you get messages and stuff or reactions and you're like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. I didn't expect that, but it makes you feel good. I know it makes them feel good, and we need more of that. And a lot of hockey players do that. So it's awesome.
So who was the Charlie Coyle to you? Who was your idol when you were a kid that you would have given that reaction to?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I brought up my cousin Tony Monty. He was my guy because he was I think he's a second cousin, but he's a cousin.
He's a cousin. He's
family. And so every time we got to see him, or he had a hockey camp around here because he's from Boston, and go to the hockey camp and just looking up to them like they're God, and so he was my guy, but he was family, so I got to see him every now and then off the ice. But every time he'd come to town and play the Bees, we were rooting against the Bees. The only time we root against the Bees. But he was our guy, and our whole family would go get the face paint on and the jerseys and go to the game, and he'd flip pucks to us and warm ups and stuff. And you don't forget those little things, and it's really cool to look back on.
So going off the fan thing, you played here in Minnesota where the fan base is super passionate. Now you're in Boston where the fan base is super passionate. What's it like playing for teams that have intelligent and loyal fans every single night?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, actually. Just seriously, how some guys don't get to do that, or some guys play for a team who doesn't, just get as much, that atmosphere and rowdiness.
A team that you wouldn't have wanted to be traded to, right? Something
yes,
like that.
Tell us now.
You guys will figure it out, I guess. I'm heading towards it. But yeah, I feel very lucky to be able to, witness that, experience that. Minnesota was awesome. It's like sometimes even in there it gets quiet, but it's like they're just analyzing the game and they know what's going on. And then, but at the right moments or playoff time or big game, big moment, they're on their feet and it's loud and it's awesome to play in front of. And that's what Boston is. Boston might be, a few more people with a few more beverages in them and screaming, but it's great. It's a great sports city and they're always loud. Same deal as Minnesota, and it just that's where you want to play in those type of arenas and atmospheres, and so yeah, very lucky. It's not many guys.
Unlike what kind of arena would you not want to play in?
There's a couple of them.
A little quiet, right? I was able to catch a Bruins game last year actually with my friend Liz, and it was so much fun. Like that stadium gets rocking. You call it stadium, arena, you know what I'm saying. Minus the fact that you guys lost in a shootout to Florida. They came back and scored like 3 goals. I was like, you have to be kidding me. What happened, Charlie? Come on now.
Yeah.
Stop it, Jesse. You're gonna make him think about bad things. Don't do that.
I know. That was a tough. I think we were up 4-1.
Yeah, 4-1. How do you know?
Back late, and then they beat us in the shootout. That was not good.
I had to laugh because it was the first time in a really, really long time that I had been to a game that I wasn't covering. So I was able to actually enjoy some of those beverages that you had talked to. But even funnier, like I had told my friend at that point, every Wild game had gone into overtime. And so I kind of nudged her and I said, watch, this game's going to go into overtime. And sure as hell it does. It goes into a shootout. It was classic. It was great. I still had an awesome time.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to experience that. You got to at least once experience it and have a couple and then just enjoy and relax.
Yeah, do you have any tickets lying around that you could send us to?
I got a bunch.
You said you have 2, right?
Aside from family, what do you think your favorite thing about being back home? Is it Dunkin'? Is that your favorite Dunkies? Are you pretty happy to have Dunkies back?
Yeah, Dunkies. I'm not a big Dunkies guy. I was never a big coffee guy. I just got into coffee, but I wasn't a big coffee guy.
So did Jessie.
Same.
She just started drinking coffee.
Just went to Starbucks for the first time last week ever in my entire life.
Oh my God, you have me. That's impressive.
Thank you.
So are you hooked on it now or what?
I have had it every day since, so it's become a problem.
Welcome to the club.
I'm trying to think. No, I mean, there was a few places where I like to eat. I like my sushi spot in Minnesota where I like to go. There's a few of them, but in the back here, I get to go to mine, that I like to go to more often. And then, but I never really ventured into the city a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know my way around Boston before I started playing here.
Really?
No, I GPS wherever I go to the rink and back every day. And so I figured my way out now, just my way around town. And then in the area that we're living in has been kind of new and up and coming for the last, 10, 15 years. And so there's a bunch of restaurants and new things to try. So we're always kind of venturing out and trying new things like that. And so I have a sushi spot, literally a block away that I spend way too much time at, way too much money at. But that's like my thing. I don't really spend my money on a whole lot. It's just sushi pretty much.
You had mentioned before that your family thought you had kind of picked up a Minnesota accent. Do you think you've lost that? And has your Boston accent come back a little bit stronger?
I don't know. What do you guys think?
You said hockey earlier, and it was for sure a Boston hockey, not a Minnesota hockey. So I was like, he's officially transitioned. We lost him, guys.
We lost him. He's
I
gone.
got it back. It's funny because like when you're out in Minnesota, and I'll catch myself every now and then when I say Minnesota, and I'm like, I'm not there anymore. I got to transition over, but and then I would always come back in the summertime when I was playing out in Minnie, and then you really like. When I was living here, you don't hear the accents because you grew up in it. That's all you know. But then going to Minnesota, come back to it, you're like, you really like. Even my parents, I'm like, oh my gosh, they talk like so different. It's crazy. So I think it's definitely rubbed off on me with them, and then like my friends, and so there's different words and that I'll catch myself and be like, oh my gosh, I'm back.
Even when you just said parents, you said it with a Boston accent.
Did I?
Like, yeah.
Yeah, you'll catch it every now and then. It's funny, but it's like a little of both. But probably inching more towards Boston lingo now.
It was great. We watched the video with you and Tricky doing the Boston thing back and forth. And honestly, it was like the best thing ever about Dunkies. And you throw in the Boston names. And it was just, this is so beautiful. Like, I just
that was us every day in the rink. I don't think I ever talked to Tricky like just how we normally talk in our
Does anyone talk to Tricky normally, though? That's the real question.
That's true, actually. That's true. But that was our thing. And he would just pushed the accent so hard, so hard, and like it was so funny every day. And then he used to send those to me. I'd be like, this is perfect.
What would you say you miss most about Minnesota? I mean, you started your career here. It's kind of all that you had known. Is there anything in particular that you miss about Minnesota and playing for the Wild?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think pretty much everyone will say that your teammates and all that, that's a definite. But even just the trainers and equipment guys and all those people they're awesome back there. And like that's one of the first things I think of when I got traded was like, oh my God, I'm not going to see these guys you see these guys every day.
Yeah.
And it sucks, to be honest, you know. And but I mean, we have great people here in Boston too, who I'll get, you know, make great relationships with, and you know, be thankful for that. But there's so many good people over there, and you know, I still keep in touch with a bunch of them, and so that gets me by. But those, like, I have to say that just the teammates and all the staff over there, because they were awesome.
Before we let you go, I'm sure our Minnesota fans would love to hear this, and our listeners are mostly Minnesotans. So is there anything that you'd like to say to them?
Think of it like a cameo, except we won't be paying you for this. So it's
totally
pretty much the same thing.
No, I really loved my time there. I've said it a bunch, but I really did. And I'm not just saying that to say it. I love Minnesota. It'll always be very special to me. And I really miss it. And I loved everything there. I loved everything. And I feel very lucky that I was able to go out there and play as long as I did. And the fans were awesome, interacting, you know, at signings or team events or whatever the case was with everyone, and meeting new people. And you see a lot of the same people too. And you just make great relationships with people. And it was so cool and so rewarding. And I'm just so happy I got to experience that. So thank you to all the fans and everyone out there. And I love coming back and playing at the rink, at the X, and seeing everyone again. It's really special.
Anything you want to say to Tricky?
Yeah.
I'll see Tricky at Donkey soon.
I love it. And you made it easy because we can still cheer for you because you're in the Eastern Conference and
Right.
whatever, right? Like,
It all works out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Charlie, it was so good to see you once again. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having you back at some point in the season and maybe see you at the rink.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it works out like that. But time will tell. Thanks a lot. I love listening to you guys, so it's great to be on there.
Awesome.
Thanks, Charlie.
We're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back.
Don't miss a beat with the Beauties. Make sure you're subscribing to Bardown Beauties podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Once subscribed, help us grow by rating and telling us what you think about Bardown Beauties. We love bringing you fresh eps each and every week and need your help to reach new listeners and new heights. Appreciate your love and support.
We're back. Thanks again to Charlie. He's awesome. Charlie, you're awesome. I know you listen to us every week because you're such a big fan. I mean, you were fangirling over us. I get it. No, thank you so much to Charlie Coyle for joining us. Really great to catch up. We miss you in Minnesota. But it's fun to watch him in Boston.
Yeah.
To be home.
It's such a bittersweet feeling seeing like players who you love to see around the rink and in the locker room thriving elsewhere because you want the best for them. But it stinks not seeing their faces, you know, day in and day out here in Minnesota. So as soon as he like popped up on the screen for the Zoom call, I was like, Charlie, I miss him.
Charlie.
So it was so nice to have him on, and just a great guy. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the interview because we had a lot of fun with him. So hopefully get him back on at some point down the road. And
heck yeah, or just pay him in a cameo. Make him do a cameo. Toss him some ducats, you know.
If you have anything like out of left field, like hit him with it, because let's get him to do some funky cameos. Yeah.
Do you know my friend sent me a cameo? I was going to bring this up, but she tried to play a trick on me, and she sent me a Pennywise cameo.
Oh
and
my
it's
God,
like,
no.
So we're both really weird. We're both like horror. This is appropriate because it's like Halloween. Like I actually went into labor watching it in the movie theater, like the first time, because I love scary movies. Like that's our thing. And like, I think the It clown is hilarious. So I remember like it was texted to me from a number I didn't know. And it was just like a red balloon. And I was like, this is totally my friend. This is my best friend. Like I know who it is. Like I'm not even weirded out by this. And the cameo is like epic. It's a full dressed Pennywise, like very scary. And it's like, Jesse, I hear that you love balloons, and like it's so great. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't scare me. I think it's awesome. And it was like, come play with the clown. And I'm like,
Jesse, stop. You're
she paid
scaring me.
She paid $42 for that. I'm like, that was $42 for 30 seconds of amazing. And thank you.
If my
for that.
friend did that, they would be paying $42 for me to literally shit my pants, because that's what I would do if someone sent me that. No, do not.
Send all your Pennywise cameos.
No, I
to
hate
Alexis
Pennywise. He's so
City.
freaky. No. What is this?
Yeah.
This is a hockey podcast. Stop talking about scary clowns.
cameos. Again, great kickoff episode to season 2. Things haven't changed, so we're gonna conclude with Dear Diary with Alexis and the Clown.
Wild versus Flames. 10 reasons why you should hate the Flames. Number 5, they're in our division, so you have to hate them.
And that's Dear Diary with Alexis. God,
You can't say the math doesn't check out on that. Like, it absolutely does.
Don't at me. It's checked
Don't
out.
at
It's
me.
clear.
The math checks out.
I love it. It's just great. Well, that does it for our triumphant return into season 2. Again, thank you everybody who made season 1 so epic. We're excited for season 2. We're excited to be on the Talk North Network. We're excited for our partner in Minnesota Hockey Fights Cancer. And we're excited, obviously, for Soda Stick, who keeps being awesome and doing their things. Don't forget to check out their store. We also have our Teespring merch. Be sure you check that out. And give us a
refreshed
little,
Teespring merch
Yes,
page.
Alexis worked very hard to make the
I worked
storefront.
tirelessly to bring you that. So go on there and buy something, or still help me.
Because everything that you purchase, not only do you look awesome, but you're also supporting us. And we love that because we're still
We have
hashtag trying to get Alexis out
Rent
of waitressing.
and mortgages and hashtag get Alexis out of waitressing.
Yes.
Do you know how expensive things are? Very expensive.
Okay, I'm glad you're finding this out right now. Like it's life. Life is challenging. It costs money to live. So,
If anyone just wants to pay my rent, you can at me on that. Don't at me on the whole Flames thing.
We'll leave it. We'll
anyone
start a
wants to pay
Venmo.
my
Like
rent-
we'll have our own Venmo if you want to just send us
Please.
money. Just
Please
because
support
we're
me.
awesome. And in supporting us, be sure you rate this. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the Beauts. We'll be back next week with some more great content for you. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.